In the shimmering heat of ancient sands where empires have risen and fallen, a modern prince steps into a land of contrasts, bridging worlds divided by history, politics, and hope. This is the untold journey of diplomacy on foot, where one royal visit sparked quiet revolutions in understanding, challenging preconceptions, and fostering unlikely alliances. As tensions simmered across the Middle East, Prince William's historic trip in 2018 became more than a state affair. It was a human bridge, revealing the raw pulse of a region yearning for peace amid its vibrant chaos. Prepare to witness how a single voyage ignited personal growth, cultural awakenings, and glimmers of unity in a divided world. Prince William, the Duke of Cambridge, gazed out the window of his plane as it descended toward Amman, Jordan. The year was 2018, and this was no ordinary trip. At the request of the British government, he was embarking on the first official visit by a senior member of the royal family to the Middle East in decades, a region steeped in biblical history, modern conflicts, and resilient spirits. The Duke, then 36, carried the weight of expectations. He wasn't just representing the crown. He was a father, a husband, and a man curious about the world beyond palace walls. His itinerary spanned Jordan, Israel, and the occupied Palestinian territories, a delicate balance of diplomacy in a place where every gesture mattered. Upon landing at Queen Ali International Airport, William was greeted by Crown Prince Hussein of Jordan, a young leader much like himself. The two shared an immediate rapport, both heirs to thrones navigating the pressures of youth and duty. They drove through the bustling streets of Amman, where the aroma of spiced mansaf wafted from roadside eateries, and the call to prayer echoed from minarets. William's first stop was the Jerash refugee camp, home to thousands displaced by the Syrian war. There, he met families who had fled unimaginable horrors. A young girl named Aya, with bright eyes and a shy smile, handed him a drawing of a peaceful home. "This is what I dream of," she said in halting English. The Duke knelt to her level, listening intently as she spoke of lost schools and shattered dreams. It was a humbling moment, reminding him of his own privileged childhood. He promised to carry their stories back to Britain, vowing to advocate for more aid. That evening, at the royal palace, William dined with King Abdullah II and Queen Rania. The conversation flowed from global issues to personal anecdotes. The king shared tales of his military training in the UK, forging a bond over shared experiences. William discussed his initiatives on mental health, drawing parallels to the trauma faced by refugees. As the sun set over the Dead Sea, visible in the distance, the Duke reflected on the day's lessons. This wasn't just about handshakes, it was about seeing the human cost of conflict. He retired to his quarters, journaling his thoughts, a habit that helped him process the emotional depth of such encounters. Little did he know, the real test lay ahead in the divided lands to come. From Jordan, Prince William crossed into Israel, landing in Tel Aviv under a clear Mediterranean sky. The shift was palpable from the arid deserts to the vibrant, tech-savvy coastal city. He was welcomed by Israeli President Reuven Rivlin at his residence in Jerusalem. The two discussed innovation and peace, with Rivlin emphasizing Israel's role as a startup nation. William, intrigued by technology's potential for good, visited a tech hub where young entrepreneurs pitched apps for environmental conservation. One team demonstrated a water purification device inspired by regional shortages, sparking the Duke's interest in sustainable solutions. The visit took a poignant turn at Yad Vashem, the Holocaust Memorial. William laid a wreath in the Hall of Remembrance, his face somber as he contemplated the atrocities. "We must never forget," he whispered to his aides. Meeting survivors, he heard stories of loss and resilience that echoed the refugee tales from Jordan. It was a bridge to his own family's history. His great-grandmother, Princess Alice, had sheltered Jews during World War II and was buried on the Mount of Olives. He visited her grave, a quiet moment of reflection amid olive trees swaying in the breeze. In the evening, William attended a reception at the British consul's residence in East Jerusalem, mingling with artists, activists, and business leaders from diverse backgrounds. A Palestinian musician played the oud, blending melodies that transcended borders. Conversations turned to youth empowerment, with William sharing his Heads Together campaign. A young Israeli student asked about bridging divides, how we talk when history screams. The Duke replied thoughtfully, by listening first. As night fell, he walked the ancient streets of Jerusalem, the golden dome of the rock glowing under stars. The city's layers, Jewish, Muslim, Christian, mirrored the complexities he was unraveling. This leg of the trip challenged his views on coexistence, planting seeds of optimism amid skepticism. Crossing into the occupied Palestinian territories, Prince William arrived in Ramallah, where Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas hosted him at the presidential compound. The atmosphere was charged with hope and frustration. Abbas spoke of the quest for statehood, while William listened, emphasizing the UK's support for a two-state solution. The Duke visited a school in Jalazone refugee camp, where children performed traditional dabkeh dances. He joined in awkwardly at first, laughing with them as they taught him steps. "You're a natural," a boy teased, lightening the mood. At the British Council's offices, William engaged with young Palestinians in workshops on entrepreneurship. One woman, Noor, pitched a business idea for eco-friendly crafts made from recycled materials. Inspired, he connected her story to global sustainability efforts. The visit included a stop at the Church of the Nativity in Bethlehem, where he marveled at the site's historical significance. Touching the star marking Jesus' birthplace, he pondered faith's role in peace. Tensions were evident, checkpoints and walls loomed as reminders of division. Yet personal interactions shone through. At a football match with local youth, William kicked a ball around, his competitive side emerging. "Goal!" He cheered, high-fiving players. These moments humanized the diplomacy, showing that beyond politics, people crave connection. As he departed Ramallah, William carried messages from Palestinians to share with world leaders, feeling the weight of their aspirations. This part of the journey deepened his empathy, transforming abstract policies into lived realities. Back in Israel for the final engagements, Prince William focused on cultural and economic ties. He visited Tel Aviv's beaches, meeting surfers and environmentalists working on marine conservation, a nod to his passion for the planet. At an innovation summit, he awarded prizes to startups tackling climate change, drawing applause from a diverse crowd. A highlight was his meeting with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and, later, in a separate session, with young peace activists for both sides. They shared visions of a shared future, discussing joint projects in education and health. William encouraged them, recalling his own experiences. Change starts with dialogue. The trip's emotional peak came at a garden party hosted by the British ambassador, where Israelis and Palestinians mingled under fairy lights. Music played, stories were exchanged, and for a brief evening, barriers seemed surmountable. As his plane prepared for departure, William met with religious leaders from Judaism, Islam, and Christianity at an interfaith gathering. Their prayers for peace resonated deeply. Boarding the flight home, he reviewed photos and notes, a collage of faces, landscapes, and insights. The visit had exposed him to the region's beauty and pain, fostering his growth as a global advocate. Upon returning to Kensington Palace, Prince William shared his experiences with his family. Kate listened as he described Aya's drawing and Noor's business pitch. The trip's impact rippled outward. He amplified refugee stories and speeches, boosted funding for mental health in conflict zones, and supported tech collaborations between the UK and the Middle East. Years later, in 2026, echoes of that visit lingered. Crown Prince Hussein and William remained in touch, collaborating on youth initiatives. The Duke's journey had not solved conflicts, but it humanized them, inspiring a new generation to seek understanding. In a world of division, one royal steps toward empathy proved that bridges could be built one conversation at a time. The Middle East, with its enduring spirit, had changed him, and through him, perhaps the world a little too. In the quiet months after his return to London, Prince William found the Middle East still living inside him. The faces he had met refused to fade. Every time he walked through Kensington Gardens with his children, he remembered the dusty playgrounds in Jalazone camp. Every time he sat at a formal dinner, he thought of the simple meals shared with refugee families in Jordan. The trip had not ended when the plane landed. It had only changed shape. It became part of his daily thoughts, his speeches, and the quiet decisions he made behind closed doors. One chilly morning in early spring of the following year, William sat in his office at Kensington Palace. Papers and photographs covered the desk. Among them was the small drawing Aya had given him in Jerash camp. A house with a red roof, a tree full of green leaves, and a smiling sun. He kept it in a simple wooden frame now. It reminded him that hope looks the same in every language. His private secretary entered the room carrying a thick folder. Inside were letters, emails, and reports from the Middle East. Many came from the people he had met. Noor, the young woman from Ramallah who dreamed of making eco-friendly bags and jewelry, had written to say her small business had grown. She now employed 6 other women from her neighborhood. She thanked him for the encouragement and the small grant that had helped her buy the first sewing machines. Another letter came from the tech team in Tel Aviv. They had finished their water purification device and were testing it in villages near the Jordan River. The young engineer who had shown William the prototype wrote that they named the project after the Duke's visit. They called it Cambridge Flow. William smiled when he read the name. It felt strange and touching at the same time. But not all news was easy. Reports from Gaza spoke of rising tensions. Families struggled with electricity cuts and lack of clean water. William felt helpless reading the words. He could not solve wars or change borders. Yet he knew small actions could still matter. He picked up the phone and called his contacts at different charities. He asked questions. He listened. He pushed for more support in health clinics and schools. He did not make big public announcements. He worked quietly, the way he had learned during the trip. Months passed. Summer arrived with long sunny days. William and Catherine decided to take their children to Jordan for a private visit. No cameras, no official program. Just a chance to see old friends again. King Abdullah and Queen Rania welcomed the idea warmly. They arranged everything with great care and privacy. The family flew into Amman on a warm evening. Crown Prince Hussein met them at the airport. The two princes greeted each other like brothers who had not seen each other for too long. They laughed about old jokes and talked about their growing responsibilities. Hussein was now married and expecting his first child. William congratulated him and shared stories about fatherhood. The next morning they drove to Jerash camp. This time William brought his whole family. George, Charlotte, and Louis walked beside him through the narrow lanes. Children gathered quickly. They recognized the tall prince from before. Aya was there too. She was taller now, her hair in 2 neat braids. She ran forward and hugged William without hesitation. Then she looked at Catherine and the children with shy curiosity. Catherine knelt down and spoke gently to Aya in English. The girl answered in a mix of Arabic and simple words she had learned. She showed them her new school bag. She told them she was studying hard to become a doctor one day. William watched his daughter, Charlotte, listen carefully. Charlotte asked Aya about her favorite subjects. The two girls soon sat together on a low wall, drawing pictures in the dust with sticks. Later that day, the families visited a community center inside the camp. Volunteers had set up art workshops, football games, and music classes. Prince William joined the children in a football match. He played goalkeeper. The children laughed every time he dived for the ball. Louis, still small, kicked the ball with all his strength. When it went wide, everyone cheered anyway. For a few hours, the camp felt like a normal playground. No politics, no wars, just laughter and running feet. That evening, Queen Rania hosted a small dinner at their private residence overlooking the city. The table was simple: fresh salads, grilled lamb, warm bread, and sweet baklava. The children ate with the Jordanian royal children. They giggled and shared stories. The adults talked in low voices about the future. King Abdullah spoke about the need for more jobs for young people. William agreed. He told them about a new program he was supporting in Britain to help young refugees learn skills and find work. They promised to stay in touch and share ideas. The next stop was Israel. This visit was also private. William wanted his family to see the places that had touched him so deeply. They walked through the narrow streets of the old city of Jerusalem. They touched the ancient stones of the Western Wall. They stood quietly in the Church of the Holy Sepulchre. Catherine held Louis close as they looked at the spot where many believe Jesus rose again. George asked many questions. William answered them simply and honestly. He wanted his children to understand that history is not just stories in books. It is alive in the people who live there today. In Bethlehem, they visited the Church of the Nativity again. This time, William showed his family the small cave beneath the church. The star on the floor glowed softly in the candlelight. Charlotte whispered that it felt peaceful. William nodded. He remembered how he had felt the same thing during his first visit. Peace is rare in that land, but when it comes, it feels very strong. They also met some of the young peace activists William had spoken to before. These young people came from both Israeli and Palestinian families. They worked together on projects that brought children from both sides to play football, make music, and learn about each other. One girl named Layla told Catherine how nervous she had been the first time she met an Israeli child her age. Now, they were best friends. They sent messages every day. Catherine listened with tears in her eyes. She hugged Layla and said she was proud of her courage. Before leaving Israel, the family spent a morning on the beach in Tel Aviv. George and Charlotte built sandcastles with some local children. Louis ran into the shallow waves and laughed when the water tickled his feet. William sat on the sand, watching them. The Mediterranean Sea sparkled under the sun. For a moment, everything felt simple and good. He thought about how much the world needed more moments like this. Back in Britain, life returned to its busy rhythm. William continued his work with even more energy. He spoke in Parliament about the importance of listening to young voices from conflict zones. He met with leaders of different faiths and asked them to work together on peace projects. He supported charities that helped children in Gaza, the West Bank, Jordan, and Lebanon. He never forgot the promise he made to Aya and Noor and all the others. Years went by. The children grew taller. George started secondary school. Charlotte became interested in art and history. Louis loved sports and animals. William watched them change and remembered how the Middle East had changed him. One day in late autumn, a large envelope arrived at Kensington Palace. Inside was a photograph. It showed Aya standing in front of a new school building. She wore a white coat and held a stethoscope. A note was attached. It read, "I am in my first year of medical school. Thank you for believing in me. Aya." William showed the photograph to his family. Catherine smiled. George said it was amazing. Charlotte asked if they could visit Aya again one day. William promised they would. He placed the photograph next to the old drawing of the house with the red roof. Both pictures told the same story. A story of small hopes that refused to die. A story of people who kept trying even when the world felt heavy. Prince William never claimed he could fix the Middle East. He knew the problems were too big, too old, too painful. But he also knew that every conversation, every visit, every shared meal, every football game, every listening ear added something good to the balance. He believed in the power of human connection. He believed it could grow slowly like a tree in the desert. Strong roots, green leaves, shade for those who needed it. And so he kept going, step by step, year by year, carrying the memories of the Middle East in his heart, sharing them quietly, helping where he could, hoping that one day the children of that land would live in the peaceful homes they dreamed about. Because some journeys do not end. They simply become part of who you are. And they keep teaching you long after the plane has landed and the suitcases are unpacked.